This is Blaine Perry. Welcome back to That Ain't Black podcast. Now, I sit back and have a lot of great guests, and I always say that again and again and again. But this guy has a really special position because his job affects a lot of people. It affects a lot of black people, brown people, minorities, women, and everything. And he is the first one. Now, I spend all my time trying to comb the internet, look for black people who are doing stuff that's different, unique, that's out of the norm, that what black people associate or thought of doing. And I got a really special guest here. His name is Nick Brown. He is the first Black U.S. attorney. How you doing, Nick?
I'm doing well. How you doing?
All right. Now, I got a lot of questions and stuff because you've been around the block a few times. You've been in the Army, you've been a federal prosecutor, governor's general counsel, your dad and husband and all that kind of stuff. Now, how did you do all this stuff, man? How'd you get in your position that you are right now? Can you take us through the steps?
Well, this certainly wasn't a straight line path. So, a lot of it is just being in the right place in the right time and getting yourself prepared for those opportunities. But I mean, I can give you the crib note version of how I got to where I am now. So I grew up in the Puget Sound down near Tacoma, left here to go off to Morehouse College for college.
Black college,
I went
wow. Black
Morehouse,
college, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Traditional black college. A lot of history
yeah,
there.
no, that was my dad put in my head Morehouse back when I was early in high school, and so going out to a HBCU was important for me,
Uh-huh.
particularly growing up out here. It was really transformative.
Mm-hmm.
But I went to college on a Army ROTC scholarship,
Mm-hmm.
so I had an obligation to serve in the Army after college, but I got a delay to go to law school first. So I went into straight from Morehouse to Harvard for law school, graduated Harvard, and then went right into active duty as an Army lawyer, as a JAG.
Mm-hmm.
I always tell folks, sort of, if you've seen A Few Good Men, that's me basically.
So I know they had a
um,
TV show on about Jag. That's all I know about it. Yeah, and I seen the film a
yeah, no, there was
long
a
time
TV show.
ago. Yeah.
Yeah, back in the day, there was a Air Force or a Navy JAG.
Okay.
So I was an Army JAG officer. I did criminal defense work, so I was defending soldiers, and then I prosecuted on my last year. But I finished up at JBLM back near where I grew up. And then when I got out of the Army, I decided to come here, where at the U.S. Attorney's Office. So I was in this office for 6 years as an AUSA, an assistant U.S. attorney. So I did that for 6 years. Then I got an opportunity to go work for the governor, and was his general counsel for his first 4.5 years, which really just opened my mind up to possibilities and impact, and was doing lots of policy work. And then I did a brief stint in private practice for 4 years at a law firm here in Seattle. And then last year was nominated by President Biden and confirmed to be the U.S. Attorney in October of 2021. So people, there's not a straight line to that place, right? You gotta get lucky.
Uh-huh.
You gotta work hard. You gotta get yourself in the right position. And I was always trying to do things that were public oriented, that were having an impact on my community, and things that I thought were interesting and challenging, and piece all those together, and you might end up U.S. Attorney one day.
Well, now how did you end up the first black one? I'm probably asking this question again because there haven't been any black U.S. attorneys in the history of Washington, right? You're the first one.
Right, none in Washington. So there's two U.S. attorneys for Washington. One is Western Washington, which is my district, and Eastern Washington. And there's never been a black U.S. attorney in either district. So, becoming the first means a lot for me. It means a lot in terms of not only the representation, but hopefully bringing a different perspective into the justice system, and understanding a lot of the challenging issues we deal with that intersect with race and communities of color being impacted by the justice system, and trying to bring a little bit more of a unique viewpoint to that work is important to me. But it's challenging. I didn't when I left here in 2013 and went to work for the governor, I immediately thought, one day I want to come back and lead this place and be the U.S. attorney. I mean, the timing has to be right, the politics have to be right because this is a presidentially appointed position. So I wasn't going to be nominated by the prior president.
Hell no. No, come on, man. That ain't happening.
Yeah, no,
Damn well that ain't happening.
it's actually really interesting. I mean, I'm the first Black U.S. attorney in Washington, but you look across the country, the Biden administration has done a tremendous job across the country of putting a lot of people of color into these positions. I went to meet the first batch of 23 of us last year after we all got confirmed around the same time. And, being in that room, I think like 14 or 15 of us in that room were Black or people of color, which, and I think in the entire prior administration, there were two out of the 94. And now it's at least the third. So it's tremendous to see that impact.
Oh, you're losing it real quick. Nick, the mic, something happened to the sound quality here. Sorry about that. Okay, he's gonna fix it.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
I don't know why the mic keeps going out.
Don't worry, we can edit that out. Don't worry.
Yeah. But even though I'd always wanted to have this job, and I had been trying to put myself in the right position to have this opportunity if the timing was right, when in 2020 with George Floyd and everything else that was really coming to light again in America, I really stepped back and paused and like, do I want to be part of the justice system again? Do I want to be doing this work that does impact communities of color disproportionately? And I really sort of had some doubt about the thing that I had always aspired to for many years. And I remember talking to my friends about, do I want to be part of the system again, or, is that the right role for me, and that kind of thing. I ultimately decided it was, and I'm glad I did. I kept thinking, if it's not me, who is it going to be?
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be somebody else. And there's lots of good lawyers around here, but not a lot of people that I thought would have brought my perspective to the work. Trying to bring a little bit more of inclusion of the community and being driven in our justice goals by what the community actually needs and not our own ideas about what justice should look like. And, so there's this tension, I think, a lot of times for Black folks, people of color, to be engaged in law enforcement, right? I'm the top federal law enforcement officer for the state of Washington, for Western Washington. And that's something I never thought I would be. I never aspired to be in law enforcement, but if it's not me, it's going to be somebody else. And how do we affect these systems and how do we improve them? And I think the best way, for me at least, is to be at the table. And now I run an office. I run 70 lawyers, both on criminal and civil work. And I have an overall staff of about 150 people. And the ability for me to influence not only justice, but policy and perception and community trust, like all these things that make healthy and safe communities. I would much rather be at the table, being in the decision chair, than on the sidelines complaining about the system. And I think in order to make our system as positive as it can be, you need both. Like, you need folks in the community pounding on the table, marching in the streets, demanding things of people in positions of authority, whether elected office or appointed. So you need that community voice, but you also need people in the room empowered to make those decisions.
Exactly.
And I get to help shape that. So this is a good opportunity for me, and hopefully it stems other folks to want to be in these positions as well.
Yeah, now let me open up, because you said about George Floyd. Now, you being a brother and everything, every brother don't grew up and experienced being a Black man in America. It's the justice system. It's kind of like the old coin, just us. Because I'm pretty sure you don't see some stuff on TV. You got family, friends, and stuff. You be looking like, damn, damn well if that was us doing that, white folks getting away with murder because they got all the money, they got influence and power and stuff,
Yep.
and lots of juries and stuff like that are dominated by white people. And like the George Floyd, that stuff's been going on a long time. We could probably go on again and again and again and stuff about, what's the Kyle Rittenhouse. Ain't no damn way in the world no brother gonna be running down rain. It was no AR-15. Your ass would have been shot. You know
Right.
damn well you would have been shot. It's ridiculous because I remember I think you're a couple of like 5 or 6 years younger than I was. Because I remember back when the O.J. Simpson trial was going on, and the verdict about that. Because I remember there's been a lot of stuff that happened since then. But I remember all of America pretty much shut down when they was giving out that verdict. I mean, I worked at a college then. Everything was shut down. They shut down Times Square when that verdict came on out. Of course, black folks was exuberant, white folks was disappointed and everything. It didn't have nothing to do with OJ. OJ wasn't in the hood. OJ wasn't one of us. He sold out a long time ago. But it was that the system's been dogging us out for so long. We've been up under all the trials and tribulations, all the heartaches and the
Yeah.
setbacks we put through. It wasn't even about OJ. It's like, yeah. So I remember I was in here and they gave that verdict out and the white folks around the office, I thought he was gonna be guilty, and I said, yeah, that's my boy. And I mean, they all looked at me. The tension was so you could have cut it with a knife. And I sat back and looked up and said, So how does it feel now?
Right.
When the system when the system worked for us, he went out there and got a high price attorney. He got on off like a lot of white folks been getting off in the past, coming up with all this kind of stuff. And again,
Yeah.
being a black man, when you sit back up here, you just guilty. When white folks go to trial, little Johnny, little Bobby, he grew up and his daddy didn't do it, his mommy didn't do it, and they get away scot free. You
Yep.
just go to jail. So I know that you can have a lot of influence and stuff on making those decisions. And like I said, over the last past 2 or 3 years with the George Floyd, because that just shut down all of America for a year. I mean, they had riots on top of riots on top of riots, and we don't even try to even get in with the January 6th stuff. Because you know that the next day, everybody in America, all the black folks would say, damn well that would have been yo. Ain't no way in the world you putting your feet all up
you
on the
know,
table. Come on, man.
it's interesting. You talk about OJ. I remember I was at Morehouse. I was in college
Uh huh.
when the verdict came down, and I remember my dorm erupting.
Yeah.
People cheering, running up and down the halls, and it was the shock, right, that a brother
Yeah.
actually got off for doing something that he very clearly did.
Yeah. Yeah. I ain't gonna
Um,
doubt that.
yeah, but it was the shock of the justice system working differently, but it was also, as you say, like generations of decisions going the other way, where people were like, "Well, damn, it's about time."
Exactly.
But I remember talking to some of my white friends,
Mm-hmm.
who were in college at the time. They were talking about people crying in their dorm and
Mm-hmm.
so sad, and I was like, you just have no idea about how long this system has been working against us, and to see it
Mm-hmm.
work differently for the first time
Uh-huh.
was just palpable. But then the George Floyd stuff is interesting because it did feel different in America, but it wasn't something that the black community was new to. The
Exactly.
black community had been living it, and so for the first time, it felt like people outside of our community were realizing this was happening a little bit more. You had it on video from start to finish, and sort of the collective um, impact of the George Floyd and all these other shootings that were for the first time captured on video. People were like, okay, well, maybe there is something wrong with our system, but this wasn't new to most of us.
Yeah.
But it did feel different, and I remember, I mean, when these things happen and you see them, you experience them, like your emotions, for me, they change a lot. You get sad, you get angry, you get frustrated by the system. But I remember just being so angry, like angry not only at the what happened in George Floyd, but just angry at my country.
Yeah.
Like how long are we going to keep doing this thing, and how long are we going to keep having these same problems without change? And that's why, like, my own personal anger started making me doubt the path that I was on,
Uh-huh.
because I just was frustrated and trying to think, like, can I actually make a difference? But I do think it matters. It matters in language. It matters to have people in the room, like, asking these questions, like, are we cutting the young white kid a different slack than we would cut the young black kid? Like, Are we, I work with all the chief federal law enforcement officers in our district. I can call any police chief I want, and I can say like, what are you doing? Like, why are you focused on this area? Why aren't you focused on this area? I can help bring perspective about mass incarceration. Anybody can do that who has
Mm-hmm.
this role, but a lot of people historically have not done it. And so I'm just trying to push my team and push the people we work with to think a little bit differently about the work that we do. And I'm not I'm not naive to the impact that I can have. Like my hope is that I can shift this big Department of Justice just a couple degrees, and then the person behind me can shift it a couple more, because it's going to take a long time to change this justice system and push it in the right direction. And it's not going to be fixed by just having one Black U.S. attorney in this role. It's going to take a culture shift in my office. It's going to take a culture shift in the community, but it's going to take the next people and the next people behind them to keep pushing it. Um, but that change doesn't happen unless people are in the room having those conversations. And that's why it was important for me to come back to the Department of Justice.
Yeah, because I want to. If you sit back up and you go down, you think of attorney, you're gonna think of a white guy, old white guy, blonde, white guy,
Yeah.
white hair and stuff like that. You ain't gonna see nobody like you. And there definitely needs to be people who are going through law school, maybe not, who may not think, oh, I can't be a lawyer, can't do this stuff. It's always someone where you can look up to somebody who looks like you, your same experience, your same background, your same color, who went through your same challenges and everything, to look up to. Like, yeah, I can do it. He can do it. I can do it. Because I remember
Yeah.
when I started my first podcast, they had this one brother. He was doing this stuff, and I looked up to him. I said, "Damn, he can do it." All I was doing is a bunch of white guys, and I said, "I got a good idea and stuff like that. But it's not going to go." And I seen this one brother doing it. It gave me inspiration. And
Yeah.
like the old saying goes, you can't be what you don't see. When you see
Yeah.
somebody who's doing what you're doing and stuff, you're gonna, hey, I can do it. He can do it. I can do it and stuff. Now, when you sit back and bring a black perspective to it, what can you do as far as anybody? Because I know there's a lot of black folks in America going to school and everything, but they may not want to choose to get into the legal system because it seems, you know, all the challenges and frustrations and stuff and the hoops and the, you looking at that glass ceiling like, I ain't gonna do that. Any kind of feedback, anything you want to give to somebody who you might be want to go through school right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think people have to be authentic to themselves, right? And it's good to be able to look in the community or look external and see folks to get ideas, get inspiration, to get mentorship. But for me, when I always talk to young folks, I say you got to figure out what you want to do and what's authentic to who you are. And I've had people that I've looked up to over the years, both legal and lawyers and non-lawyers, who I look to for inspiration and help. But I'm not trying to be them. I'm trying to be me
Mm-hmm.
and figure out like what's my true calling. For me, it was like where can I make an impact? Where can I have a difference? To me, law school was the easy path, or it made make sense. It wasn't easy. But if you sort of look around, policymakers or political folks, a lot of people went to law school. So I started thinking like that's the best tool for me to have, to make my impact and to make my voice heard. But this is not the game for everybody. Some people, they want to do business, they want to do community work, they want to do something different.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just not my calling. But I think people got to talk to other people. They have to understand, kind of like we're talking about today, like how did you get to where you were, and they can figure out if that's a similar path that they want to go on or if they just want to do something different. So trying to just be out and engage with people and be more present, is important to me. And I've always felt this office in particular, but the Department of Justice as a whole, like when you say the Department of Justice or you say the U.S. Attorney's Office, people know what it is, but they may not know exactly what we do. They may not know, how we can be a force for good in the community. There's lots of skepticism of the department, and so trying to remove that cloak of mystery around my office is important to me. And so I try to be out in public, in the community, talking to advocacy groups and et cetera, so they just have an understanding about the work that we do. And a few weeks ago, I hosted, a diversity recruitment office or event for my office,
Mm-hmm.
where we got up in the big conference room upstairs, invited Judge Jones. He's the only Black judge in our district. And we sent out invitations to all of the minority bar associations, all of the young lawyers, just to give them an opportunity to come hear from me, to hear from Judge Jones, to hear from some of my staff here about what it means to be a person of color in this system. And I think we had about 50 total guests come, lawyers and law students. And it was eye opening for me. One, just to see like there was just this many lawyers of color.
Mm.
But also I knew, and I had conversations with people, like they came because they knew that I was in this role, and they could see someone like them, and sort of gave them an idea like maybe this is something that I might want to do. Where if it was just another white guy in this role, they wouldn't have come, or they're
Yeah.
at least less likely to come.
Yeah.
And so we have to, as an office, open up to the community about the work, the highs and the lows, be transparent about it, but also just give people an idea about if this is the path that you want to go on, here's how you get there, and here's how you can make an impact. Because I need to build out the whole office with more people bringing unique perspectives. It's good to have the U.S. attorney bring a different voice, but I need my line staff also to reflect that voice. And so I need to hire more people of color. More different perspectives in this office is going to be a healthier office in the long run.
Yeah, because that's why I wanted to get you on the show because what you do does affect people of color, especially black folks. It definitely affects. We got this Roe versus Wade stuff coming around, and they got the voting things back east that they don't want to let brothers vote and stuff. And yeah, this does impact your life every damn day. I went to a community meeting last week where they were trying to redo the lines or whatever like that. How the people the district, how many people in this district were voted, and how many people in other district get to vote.
Yeah.
And they've been going over, they using the same stuff since the '60s when they didn't give a damn about us. They sit back and put a line right in front of Chinatown and screw that. We ain't gonna get these people over here vote. We got, and it does affect us and stuff. Who we have in office affects our laws, our rules, regulations, taxes. How your community, and it really does affect your life. You may not think it does, but it does.
Oh yeah.
And unfortunately, a lot of times people don't think about it until something bad happens. You didn't vote for this, you didn't vote for over there, you didn't do this, you didn't do that. Now something bad happens and it comes up in your face. You find out you wasn't doing something 2 3 years ago, and now it's here, and you got to
Yep.
deal with it. And you
Yep.
didn't have nobody who's gonna sit back and represent you and give you your best perspective, especially when you say people of color and stuff. Because let's get real, we live in Seattle, Washington. There ain't a whole lot of brothers got a lot of influence. They ain't got a whole lot of money. They buying up houses left and right. They come
Yeah.
on in and put up stuff, and hey, we're gonna put up this house here, change this law over here, the bus routes or whatever, whatnot. We don't have we don't like what 7 to 8%. A
Of
whole
the
lot of
city.
voice
Yeah.
and a whole lot of influence. So it does affect us. And that's why I would like to have a person of color in there. You could sit back up and inspire to look for, and like, I can make an impact. I can make a change. I do have a voice. I do have someone who understands my background and everything.
Yeah. And it's also, it's not.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in my field, all the justice issues are very serious. They're very impactful. We're talking about really changing somebody's life in dramatic ways. When we bring a case against somebody, not only impacts them, but their family, their community, and potentially generations.
Mm-hmm.
But also the small things that like we care about on a day to day basis. The traffic in our community, the quality of our schools,
Yeah.
whatever things, prices, gas prices, like all those things are policy decisions. And oftentimes, and I run into this trap too, like we can get really focused on DC. Like I remember when Obama was elected, and I was just really focused on what he was doing, how people were treating him, positively or negatively, and we can get really DC focused. But I always tell folks, when I went down to work for Olympia, which was new to me,
Mm-hmm.
like 90% of the things we care about is happening in Olympia.
Mm-hmm.
Like the things in your neighborhood, the quality of your streets, the quality of your schools, the safety of all of where you live. Those are mostly state and local decisions, nothing to do with DC.
Yeah.
And we don't, you ask most folks in the community, like, who's your state rep or who's your city council rep? most people
Yeah,
can't
they
tell
don't
you,
even know. They don't even
you
know.
know?
Yeah.
So, and that, I remember working down in Olympia, like just a bunch of average folks, but not very representative of the community, especially communities of color.
Hmm.
And for the most part, people were ignoring what was happening in Olympia.
Yeah.
And that's where we really got to focus our energy. Like, no matter what your politics are, like if you care about what's happening, you should care about who your state rep is and what's happening down there.
Because I always call people like transplants. They come in and they do the little stuff, then they work in Seattle, but they live way out somewhere else, and they ain't got nothing to do with it. They don't know what's going on in the hood. And
Yeah,
well, be honest, how do you balance being a black man doing your job? And because when you go around your friends, you go to the barbecues, you go around they ain't got to be all nice. They ain't got the PPC. They go ahead and put you on blast. You like, come on, man, what's up with this? What's up with that, man? Because
yeah,
like I said, like they had that shooting. We was talking about this the other day. That shooting down in Texas, do you violate it or whatever? And
yeah,
these punks sit back up here. You calling up the police. They supposed to handle their business. They out there arresting moms and dads and stuff. They ain't taking care of it. And they can't come on up. You know damn well there's some white folks in there. Your
yeah,
ass would have been fired on the spot. They said, nah, you gone. You got to bounce. You got to get up out here. Hour and 28 minutes you sitting outside? You supposed to
yeah,
call up the police. The police supposed to do it. He's out there bopping your mama upside the head. And like I brought up
well,
to Bruce when I interviewed him, with the COVID, the people were getting mad at the Asian people attacking all these elderly Asian people. And I told him, I said, nah, I bet you was out in Bellevue, bop some old white woman upside her head. It'd be a whole different kind of story. And I just had to
yeah.
tell him, I'm like, nah, man, it's different. The law is biased towards people of color.
Well, I remember when, just a few days before Texas, when the massacre in Buffalo happened,
Yeah.
and
180-page manifesto? Come on,
well, yeah, but
man.
you knew the shooter was white because he didn't
Yeah.
get killed when he got arrested,
Yeah, and
right?
that's another thing I wanted to bring up. Wait a minute, hold up. Come on, man. That what Cal, the other guy who went to the church back in the day, they took him to Burger King.
Yeah,
Oh my God, really? You
yeah,
took him to Burger King. You took him to Burger King. Oh,
yeah,
and they don't
yeah,
get a scratch on them. Don't get a scratch on that. One brother was selling some loose cigarettes, he ended up dead.
yeah. Well, and the some of the tension that I feel around like those sorts of issues, like that's the way it's supposed to work, right? When somebody does something wrong, a police comes, they're not supposed to shoot the person, right?
Yeah.
Just if they don't have to. So like the way that the guy was arrested in Buffalo is the way it's supposed to happen. It just doesn't happen for so many folks of color because
Mm-mm.
there's all these preconceived notions about dangerousness and volatility, and they always assume black folks are armed and be dangerous, and they react differently. But to your question about like how do people respond? I mean, my experience so far has been, the first thing that I get from my black friends, my community is pride, is appreciation. A lot of people lift me up. Like you don't get to this role unless people are lifting you up,
Yeah.
right? And so I've gotten here because so many people have told me that I could do it, right? So build me up in my own head, but also give me opportunities to shine and thrive in other spaces. And so once you get here, I think people are very happy and proud of of having representation in this office. And so for the most part, what I get from folks is that all of that love and appreciation and pride. Um, but I've had plenty of difficult conversations with friends or just colleagues about, what does it mean to be part of a system that has mistreated and continues to mistreat communities of color in particular. And so, I work through that conversation the same way that we are here. Like, I get that, I feel that, I see it every day, but I can help influence that for the better by being in this role.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's not me, it's going to be somebody else who's not bringing that nuance to
Bring
the
that perspective.
conversation.
Yeah.
And like as I said, like I don't have any misconceptions about being able to dramatically change the system and make everything good in my 3-4 years in this job, but I can shift it a little bit,
Okay.
and I can have my team asking different questions, and I remember when I first came on this job in this role, I did a one-on-one with every lawyer that I work with and had them come in my office here and we had a conversation. But because I had been here previously, there's lots of people that I worked with before. And I remember I had a conversation with one of my team members who was talking about an interaction that we had had 10 years ago when we were both line prosecutors. And he said, I remember you called me out because I referred to somebody that we were investigating. And I saw a picture of this guy, the black guy with dreadlocks. And I remember saying, he was telling me, I remember having this conversation where I said, that guy looks like a thug. And I said to him, not to me.
Mm.
And he said, like, I got to be honest, like, I'm a white guy from the Midwest. I appreciated you calling me out because it forced me to stop and pause and think about my own biases, my own language, my own preconceived notions about the work. And those little corrections, those little conversations that you can have can, I think, dramatically shift people's work and shift the justice system. It takes a lot of those little conversations and those little corrections or, calling people out. But I've had this conversation with one of my employees who said, 10 years ago, you called me out and that changed things for me. And if I'm not in this role, or if there wasn't another Black AUSA in that role to help have that conversation, then nothing changes. Or at least that doesn't change in the same way. Like I said earlier, like I do think in order to have a more just system that treats people fairly, like you need people in the room, but you also need people in the community. You also need those advocates that are pushing the conversation a little bit. So that everybody's got to find their own role to change the system. And in Seattle, we get lots of people who they want to totally abolish the police, right? And they want to never build a new jail. They never, they're totally against the system. They want to burn it all down. And some of that I get, some of that I disagree with, but I think that actually is a healthy conversation for us as a country, as a community to be having. And we need those people having those voices in that role. But, I see the impact I can have of being in the room. Even like when I went to work for Inslee in 2013, literally like my first day on the job, I had a notebook from my predecessors, like talking about all the things that I was going to have to be dealing with. And one of the things was a death penalty case where the likelihood of the appeals running out in that case was going to happen for Governor Inslee. And so I immediately started working with him on reviewing the death penalty. And 10 months after I'd been in that job, the governor put a moratorium on the death penalty. And he did that because he let me and empowered me to do lots of work and research about the death penalty, its impact. He wanted to know about the impact on community of color, the bias in the system. And I really pushed that conversation with him and with our team in Olympia. And we stopped the death penalty.
Yeah.
And, for years, people in the advocate community have been pushing to do that same thing, but it needed somebody in the room. It needed a governor who was willing to make that call. It needed staff members who were going to be willing to push that conversation. So it needed people in positions of authority or power to actually make that happen. And people I don't want to be on the sideline when those things are being decided. I want to be in the room, at least pounding the table and have my voice heard. And that's how I've found that I can make a difference. And so it takes all those people working together, often very different perspectives, but to drive change, I think it takes participation, and however people are comfortable doing that.
Yeah, because they had a couple of brothers. They let go over the last 2 or 3 years. They redid their thing and let them go after they've been in jail for 20, 30 some years and stuff. And they come to find out they have some bogus whatever. Man, your whole life after 20 or 30 years and stuff, they come, oh yeah, this messed up. This guy didn't do this. Guy didn't do this. And dude been down for like 25, 30 some years. I'm like, damn, that's a hell of a damn mistake. That ain't, I mean, they've always made a mistake. Ain't no damn mistake. Hell, I've been locked up for the last 25, 30 years. We made a mistake. Mistake my ass, shoot my damn life. Because I didn't proper and good representation. And then, like I said, especially for people of color, black people, and that's really great. That's what you're doing because you give a lot of inspiration. A lot of other people who sit back and need to be in the game. You need to be in the game. You just can't sit on the sideline and be bumping your gums and talking all that smack. You actually need some people to be on the field. You know, you need your quarterbacks, you need your running
Yeah,
backs, and being it who can give a proper perspective. Because, like I said, I used to work for King County, doing security, and all the jurors, I had to say it, 90% of them were white.
yeah,
And a lot of folks don't want to do jury duty. They want to make fun of it, but it does play a special role because I remember I was been on the jury twice, and I want to bring it on up, but I can sit back up here. I was around some white folks, and they don't know nothing about the hood. And I'm, oh man, he got hit. I'm like, well, shoot, where I come from, and you was doing that. Yeah, but it wasn't as bad as you think it is. I'm bringing my perspective, and I was with these white folks. They didn't know nothing. They were from,
yeah.
I don't know where they was from. They didn't know nothing about inner city lifestyle or what's going on.
You
And
know,
it,
interesting. A good example for me, um, and it wasn't my case, but I
mm,
remember talking to Judge Jones about it upstairs, and he had a black woman who was, she had been convicted of a crime,
mm,
and she was on supervised release, like probation, basically. And
mm,
so as part of that, you got to go through all these hoops about having a job, having a stable place to live, all the, not using drugs, all these things you have to do to satisfy your supervision for a period of
mm,
time. So, but in this particular case, the supervised release officer, probation officer, was going to violate this woman because she didn't have stable employment.
mm,
Um, but in that case, what she did hair.
mm.
She did hair in the community, like,
Yeah,
and that she didn't work at a business
yeah,
or she didn't have a license, but she was getting paid to do hair in the community. Like, this was her
exactly,
job. Like,
exactly.
we know this is part of Black life. Like, you
Yeah,
got
got your
somebody in
little
the neighborhood
hustle.
that
Yeah, it's
just does
legit.
hair.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. And Judge Jones said, wait a minute, no, I'm not violating this person. Like, she has stable employment.
Yeah,
It's just not the same type that you're used to.
exactly.
And if you didn't have a black judge who grew up in the CD
You
hearing that
understood that.
conversation,
Yeah,
you wouldn't bring that voice to the table. And
yeah.
so, that's why it's important to be, I think, engaged. But you need people. Just like, not everybody has a role like I do. Not everybody can be a community activist in
Uh
a
huh.
leadership position. And so you need people like churning it up and complaining and being active, because I respond to that. Like, I'm trying to stay connected to the community and figure out like where I can have an impact. And if I hear or know about a problem, like, I'm responsive to that, or at least
Uh
I
huh.
can, include it in my consideration of issues. So everybody's got a voice, but I think people need to feel more empowered to use it. I went to the Democratic National Convention back in 2016,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember I went to see Cory Booker speak. He was doing this rock the vote conversation, during that week, and I love Cory Booker. I appreciate young brother from Newark. Like, he's been leading for a long time. I don't think he gets his flowers like he needs to.
Mm.
But he was talking about, we got to speak truth to power. We got to speak truth to power. And I remember sitting there thinking, like, no, we need to be in power.
Yeah.
You can speak truth to power, but we need people in power speaking the truth to the community too.
Uh huh.
And so that to me, I remember thinking, like, yeah, truth to, speak truth to power. We hear that in the community a lot. That's well and good, but unless you get in power,
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to see the type of change that you want to see.
Exactly. Now, I don't want to beat around the bush or something. I know you was on some game show or something like that, Survivor or something. You want to go ahead and chirp in on that, or you gonna have you got something else coming up? You gonna be the next Judge Joe Brown, Miss
Nah,
Maybelline?
man,
I mean,
I'm
come
done with
on, man.
TV. Yeah, no, when I was in law school, um, yeah, I dropped out of law school for a semester to go do Survivor.
No, that's what I want to find. How you gonna tell your dad you dropping out of Harvard? How much did you have to drink before you got the courage to say that? Come on, man. You no, cause you know how we is, man. You gonna do what? Oh
Well,
hell
yeah, no,
no,
he wasn't.
no, no, no.
My dad was an Army colonel,
Yeah,
and very kind of by the book
yeah,
kind of
exactly.
guy. And back then, like, reality shows, like, I was on the second season, but nobody, like, now it's just part of our pop culture. But back then, like,
Yeah.
nobody really knew what reality shows were.
Uh huh.
And so even when I applied to go on this show, like the first season had just finished and it was kind of a, up and coming, people talking about it, but nobody really knew what it was. And so I told my dad, like, I'm going to apply. I told my parents. And then, then when I got selected, I had to tell them I was dropping out of school for a semester. And
Mm,
they were all worried and nervous that I was like ruining my life, making a
mm.
mistake. And, I just knew I knew in my gut it was like the right call to do. And I needed to do something different like that. And, so I got to go play this reality show and made a little bit of money to pay for some law school and have less law school loan debt. And I got to be, kind of quasi famous for a little bit and then go back to my regular life. And that was great. But I'm not trying to go back on TV like that anymore.
Like all these judge shows, man. What Judge Judy? She's making dollars, man. I mean, it's a popular
But
judge. Oh, come on, man. Let's get real here.
hey, man, if I wanted to make money, I wouldn't be in this job. I tell people like I make good money for a
uh,
public sector job. I'll never complain about it. But I took a 50% pay cut to come do this job.
oh, serious?
Like
Damn.
yeah,
You must. Yeah,
no,
that's definitely devoted. Yeah, that's definitely
you
devoted.
don't do this for the money. Um, so no, I don't want to be Judge Brown or any of those things.
Oh man, that's really great, man. I'm really proud of what you're doing. You're gonna be a lot of inspiration to a lot of kids in school because we got the media and everything now. They can jump on their phones and stuff and say, hey, I can really do something with my mind. I don't have to be a basketball player or a rapper or dancer or something like that. I can use my mind. I can make an influence in my community and make an influence and be something proud for my family to look up to. And we do need a lot of positive black men to look up to other than sports figures and
Yeah,
athletes and stuff. We definitely need, positive role models in the community. 'Cause unfortunately, a lot of the homes are what 50% don't have a father figure in the black
yeah,
community in the black homes. So they need a role model to look up to, and be inspired to. Like, yeah, he can do it, I can do it, and stuff. That brother, he's the same color as me, same background as me. If he can do it, I can do it.
yeah,
And we definitely need it, especially in the black community. I'm not gonna, I don't make no, I don't try to sugarcoat nothing. I'm not no baker. I ain't sugarcoating nothing. We definitely need a lot more positive role models doing things that's very positive versus doing things that are very negative. Because when we do something negative, everybody in the damn world hears about it. You do something positive, you get two or three little chirps.
yeah,
That's all.
yeah.
But man, thanks a lot. You think you want to give a shout out or any kind of before we close this up or anything or what, man? I know you got to run back and do your cases and everything and do the gavel down.
They don't let me handle my own cases anymore. No, I mean I appreciate the opportunity and I think it's good for people in my role to get out and talk to folks. And also I was happy to do this podcast because I don't want us to be shielded from what's happening and feel like people should know who I am because this is an important role and they should feel like they can relate to people who are in positions of authority. Um, the one thing I would say that I was really awakened to when I went to work for the governor, almost 10 years ago now, is that everybody who has these positions of authority, like they're not special.
Mm.
Like, I've been successful, I've had a good career path, but we're all just people, and like I remember going down and working for the governor and working with him and some of the other political folks. And I just realized like I was just sitting in the room looking around like all you guys are just people, like people
Yeah.
I went to high school with who grew up doing something different, like sometimes we look at people who are doing unique or important things, you think that there's something different about them. And they're not. I mean,
Mm.
and you don't really feel that until you're in the room with them sometimes and realize that like they were little kids just like you were a little kid once, and they went through the same school stuff and issues. And I remember being around, like I've had an opportunity to meet Eric Holder a couple of times, and just realizing like he's not that different from me.
Mm.
He is now because he's got a lot more money.
Yeah.
But like when I worked for the governor was just a kid from Seattle, and he had a lot of opportunity to take advantage of. And so I hope people recognize that even though they're people doing unique or different things, like they're just like you. They might have different travels that you have. They, you might be going through something different or more unique or more challenging. But everybody that's come before me, who in these roles, has been going through lots of the same things. And so I just want people to understand that um, this is all achievable for them. Like I'm really happy to be the first Black U.S. attorney. I'm really excited to see who the second is
Hmm.
and the third. Because that's important. That's how you change things by having a legacy that comes behind you.
Exactly, exactly. So you miss don't be intimidated or overwhelmed. Like, oh, yeah, he do it, I can do it. That's what
Yep.
I'm telling message want to try to put out to the viewers and everything. Like, yeah, black folks can do that. We do have the brains to do it. We do have the means to do it. Hey, don't let no white boy intimidate you. You know, you can do that stuff too. You know, intelligence is just not allocated to just one certain type of people or backgrounds. Everything. Intelligence comes in all shapes, colors, and forms, and you can do it too. And man, I want to go ahead and give a shout out to you and thank you again for taking your time out. You get busy, man, and show me some love and stuff. And I'm going to go ahead and spread this message out to all my viewers. And thank you so much, Mr. Nick Brown. And thanks again for being on That Ain't Black podcast with Blaine Parrott.